A very good evening to you traders. This is Mark. Welcome to your daily trading video. Well, actually, it is the morning when I'm recording this, but I want to do a quick trade teardown of a DAX trade I took this morning. A lot of interesting things that I've noted down in my own journal, and I thought, hey, why not do a video about it? Always good to talk through some of the trades, and also maybe you guys will get something out of it too. So let's have a look at the whole backdrop for this. DAX opens up, it's gapped up weirdly at first of the month, kind of gap up on the futures, drifted down, we had the cash open, a bit of a drift, push back up, failed, and then this is the bit that sort of got me excited. This whole drive from 10,730 right the way down to 10,660, so really decent move, and it was only in about 17 minutes. So this is now where I'm kind of getting interested. You know, I'm very light trading at the moment and very cautious because of the whole scenario. We've got a lot going on economically this week, some earnings, and of course the big election result next week. So very cautious about just getting heavily involved in things, but also watching. So we push down, we push down, and we sort of making this kind of bear flag at the lows. Now, under normal circumstances, if I was just looking and I was just analysing completely objectively, a good drive lower, a first pullback is the perfect trade to hit. We talked about this several times in videos. You're either looking for a moving average to catch up to it, you're looking for a little uptrend line to break, or we've got different ways of getting on board that kind of thing. So this was pretty much textbook, and actually if you roll up a moving average as well, you can see we kissed that pretty much exactly on as we broke the uptrend line and drove lower. However, because of the situation, we just pull that moving average off, because of the situation we've been in, and markets have not been following through that much. You know, they have been driving lower, and then we've been getting a reversal. That's how I wanted to position. I didn't want to get short on this. Now, obviously, hindsight looking at this, that's the wrong move. A short there would have been lovely. Zero heat, straight down, straight through that low, and I know I would have covered into that low there. That would have been my bread and butter type trade. I wouldn't have looked for the second and third drives lower. However, because of the situation we're in, and we're looking, if you look at the 15-minute, if you look at the daily, we aren't pushing very low. You know, we aren't continually pushing lower and lower and lower. We are rotating around means. So I'm looking for buys. So I decide to buy. I think, okay, well, this is a good drive lower. Let's see if it runs out of steam as we push through that low, that 57 low. And it kind of did. We pushed through the low, ran out of steam, and so just look at my note blotter here. 8:59, I took my first entry, and then 9:01 added to the position. So basically, if you look at the chart, this is what's happened. I've bought it at this point here, just under that low. And my premise is this. Okay, the premise is we've had a good drive lower. We've pushed up a little bit. We're going to go lower, take out some stops, and then we're going to maybe do a counter trend cycle back up to some sort of mean, whether that's a moving average, a VWAP, whatever. You know, just sort of mean reversion. Let's get this panic out the way, and let's let the market recenter itself. That's the premise of the trade. But the risk on this trade is going to be 10 to 12 ticks under that low. You know, I'm not going to go any more than that. I'm going to buy at some point under there in that zone, but I'm not going to let go beyond that zone. That's the no-go zone. That's probably a bit more than 12 ticks, but you get the idea. It's not to scale. So I'm buying here, and it looks okay. The tape was a little okay read on the first few minutes. We started to push back up, but then of course we roll back over, and I'm coming out for a loss. It's simple as that. It's a losing trade. I got that wrong. It was just I still had the premise that I think we were going to be stretched and I'm going to bounce back to the mean. I don't feel we're going to get a trend day out of nowhere. So that's why I'm not taking the short. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. Obviously, hindsight shows that would have been good, but hey, that's hindsight. So what's the next stage we're at now? So we're pushing down to here, and you know, I'm looking, thinking I still quite would like to get long this because I still think that's the premise. But then look at the 15-minute. Okay, this is where it starts to get interesting, and we have this kind of interesting bias as a trader, interesting two-sided theory as a trader. I'm looking at this big 15-minute support at 10,630. Okay, that's not a straight line. I've just done it freehand, but you get the idea. That's the big 15-minute support I'm looking at. These lines here, and it goes back quite a way actually. And I'm thinking, right, we've come quite a way. And we've had, let's get back to 1 minute chart, and we've had, you know, one pullback, two pullbacks. we could now, the very best trade for me, what I really would like, is to buy under that 10.630. If I can buy at 10.625, 10.620 on a big flush after moving, you know, a big amount in a very short period of time, and I can buy under the good support, then the chance of us having a reaction back up, at least a scalpable reaction back up, is very high. So that's always in the back of my mind as the best trade to get. However, also in my mind is that we haven't been getting these final pushes, the third and final push that you would often get with a market that's really aggressive and really probing these levels. So I'm keeping my mind open. I'm still thinking my premises were going to get a push back up. And at this point now I'm looking at the prior close, or the 430 print anyway, and saying that's kind of where my exit's going to be, and the VWAP is sloping down to it. Let's just have a look at the VWAP as well. The VWAP is starting to slope down, so it's about that level as well. So it's a perfect place to look for my final exit, or at least frame the trade around that. So we push back lower, and you know, nothing's going on. All of a sudden we get this little tape burst off the low. We double print on the low there, and we get a tape burst and pushes the upside. So that gets me long again. I think, okay, you know what, I'll give this a shot. We're stalling down here now. We haven't quite made under that 30 level. Let's just give this a little shot and see if this is kind of the level that we're looking at. We've got a little push up, and we stalled again. And this is the sort of this is I think a little bit of a mistake. Actually, it turned out okay, but let me explain what I mean. If you look at a 20 period moving average, and this is okay, a kind of another guide as well of a deeper pullback sell. This is the first time we tagged it for all that time. We pushed lower. It's about second or third attempt to push back up, and we're now just tagging that. And normally, again, if you're tagging these kind of levels, you're expecting another downdraft lower. So at this point I'm thinking, oh, this is kind of going against what I'm trying to achieve here. However, let's just stick with the bigger premise. So the market pushes up, and it, you know, I haven't got much in that trade at all. It's not enough for me to take it out. If it had gone a little bit higher, I would have probably got some off there. It rolls back over here. At this point I'm thinking this is not the nicest trade, but you know, it starts to spark back up again. At this point now I think, okay, let me just halve this position. I'm not happy with the position. Let me just halve it. I don't like the way that hasn't followed through. I would have expected that to consolidate and then start to really push on. That was what I was hoping. We didn't get it, so I'm taking half of the position off there. If in doubt, you're happy to lighten up. Then I started noticing this little every 6 to 7 to 8 minute time frame, we were getting a little burst of buying, and this was kind of interesting me. I was thinking, okay, well this could be interesting. See here, burst of buying, a little burst of buying here, a little burst of buying, a little burst of buying, and then we'll come to this one in a second. But you can see there's a little bit of a pattern there, and we're holding at the lows, we're digesting. So I'm still in my mind thinking the flush through the 30 is the ultimate trade. I don't want to be caught long through that and spitting out the long under that, because I want to be buying. So keep this stop tight. Do not let this go much lower than that last low. Keep it very tight. I've got half off. I've only got a smaller position on now, and then look for that bigger buy under the 1630. However, be ready to get on if the sort of the premise changes. And as we came into this last little cycle here, I don't know what you want to call it, but little time cycle that I noticed this pattern in, we pushed up, and this was pretty heavy. So I decided to add a little bit more, not a full half on, just a little bit more. And then we got a nice little push up here. So that was enough for me to take some off of that little scalp and just use that as a bit of cash flow, just to put some in and undo some of this damage from loss. I say damage, you know, it's a standard loss this, but you know, just putting it into perspective of the bigger picture of P&L. And then, you know, we got exactly what I was hoping we'd get, which was then just a chug up, and there was no reason to close this until we got up to the VWAP and the prior close. And you know what, I'd love to be able to say to you that I held it for that last little 12 tick bonus candle, but I didn't. I ended up coming out literally 3 minutes before that, and that was my final exit on the trade. So that would have been a nice little bonus there if I'd have held on, but you know, the premise was always for it to tag that and tag the VWAP, and it had done. It was grinding. I was watching the FTSE as well. The FTSE was pushing on and the DAX was struggling, so I just thought, you know, that there's no reason to hold that anymore. And obviously a few minutes later we got that little pop, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't concern me. That does happen. But what are the lessons? Let's summarize. Okay, sticking with the premise, I'm glad one thing I'm glad I stuck with the premise and stay on the long side. Obviously, that trade worked out, very well in the end, and we got that 30-point move from the 50 level up to the 80. And I'm glad also that I was able to spot this kind of thing. But that's my, strong point, if you like, is spotting these short-term movements and then positioning accordingly. Negatives from the trade are obviously, I think, coming out of half of the position here out of worry. I say worry, that's a bit of a strong word, but you get the idea. There's no real need to close half of the position. In reality, yes, maybe I wasn't, I wasn't up or down at this point. I'd bought quite late in this move, on this tape move. However, structuring the risk under that low, it seemed fair to keep the position there, and then I probably should have added aggressively on the break or this pullback here and been in the full position, or even fuller double position at this point here. Yeah, I know, I appreciate it's hindsight and looking at it, you can be a bit hard on yourself, but let's just analyze this and focus and see exactly what went wrong, what went right. That would have been the ideal scenario. And instead I was in a half position here. I ended up adding a little bit more here, scaling out here, and then by the time we got here I didn't have as much of a position, or nowhere near as much as I would have liked. So what made me do that? I guess the chop here, I guess this resistance level, capping it here. But ultimately, recognizing the bigger picture and understanding the current market environment we're in, we're not getting these flush throughs. I think the fact that 10,630 level was down there and was literally so close that once we'd gone through it, if we'd gone through on volume, we could have got a real spit, and that would have been the very, very best buy. Held me back a little bit from getting too ambitious and loading the boat too much on what I thought was the second-rate setup. Ultimately, that worked out okay, but I was still looking for that 30 push. So there you go. That's what I got up to this morning. Kind of worked out okay, but interesting nevertheless to see how this market is behaving, and we're getting this a little bit more now, rather than the massive flushes that we expect, or that I like to look for. We're getting this kind of consolidation at the bottom, and then a little bit of buying comes in, and then you have to see if you get the ultimate buying. I guess very, very quickly, I've gone on for quite a long time now, 12 minutes, but I guess the best trade of the lot would be to wait out all this stuff, put your resistance level here, we're stretched, we're due a push back to a mean, and then buy when you see the volume coming in, buy on the first pullback of that, and that would be you buying back to this support here on this pullback, and then you're just pushing up and you're looking for that. That would have been this kind of stress-free best trade of the lot, I think. And then obviously the pullback, the first pullback on the short here. But I don't, given that again, I probably don't think I would take that, just purely because of the position we're in, purely because of the environment we're in, and it wasn't under a big support. If it had been under, let's say it had been under that 30 and it had been an early in the move. So this is a difference. The 30 down here, if it's late in the move, that becomes a buy. If it's early in the move, let's say this was 30 now and it was early and we'd pushed and we'd held underneath it, that to me then becomes a sell scalp, because we've only just started. It's the first retracement on the move. There's more to go. Rather than third or fourth in the move and quite stretched and on the time, then it becomes a buy. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you had a great trading day today. Plenty more stuff to talk about, but we'll cover that in another video tomorrow. Take care.